should be the audio behind the intro music. Hey Tom, on August 28th or thereabouts, you said by the end of the season, this would be the third time out of 10 that we've finished ninth.
Yep.
When it's all said and done, how are you feeling this time around, finishing ninth? This is the season review, by the way, for all 5 of you listening in. The 2016 season review with Red, White and Black.
This year was different.
It's very meta.
This year was different because we finished so well. It never felt like we were even in the running for 8th spot, even though we kind of were in the last few weeks. As opposed to 2007, 2012, where we were coming off seasons that we'd made the finals. So there was that. So it doesn't even feel like we finished 9th in the sense that we just missed out on the finals because we're a finals team or thereabouts. And also this time, 2007... was a bit of an unknown what was going to happen next, but this time it's a clear upward trend, so there's a bit more positivity around it as opposed to feel like we just missed out on something. That said, we beat the Bulldogs in the last couple of months of the season. They only finished 2 places above us on the ladder. How did you feel about finishing 9th?
Just weird overall. Yeah, like you said, we kind of came to the party very late, and it all happened very quickly because obviously our first half of the year was positive in its own way, but we were still very much in the bubble of just improving and trying to get better. And then all of a sudden you find yourself at a packed Etihad for Boomer's record-breaking game, and all of a sudden the season is on the line.
Yeah, it felt
before
like
we even knew we were a part of it.
Yeah. That was the first game for 4 years that it felt like it was counting towards something.
Mm-hmm. Is that round 19? We only lost by 23 in the end, but it kind of felt like
I think the 3/4 time score was...
It might have been a 43-point loss more than a 23.
Yeah, I think we kicked the last 3 or 4.
That's the most silent I've seen you at the football afterwards since about 2011. It was a shock to the system.
Yeah, it was just like...
loss.
It was this week that all of a sudden we counted for something, and we were going to the footy, and it felt like the game counted for something. The atmosphere was pretty intense compared to what we've been used to over the last few years.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of... You feel like maybe after that long of being rubbish, you've crossed that line into being relevant. And we certainly made a lot of progress this year, but we kind of you kind of realised by 3/4 time that there's still some waiting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but just as soon as we found ourselves in it, we got kicked straight back out.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty brutal kind of reawakening.
Yeah.
That's for sure, but yeah, even that night, we still showed that we were up for the challenge, and what some of the other moments that really really excited me were obviously the Geelong game with that Jade Gresham goal. And,
I remember you looked straight at me when he kicked the goal, and I just sort of stood up and I had a arm out with the finger index, and I didn't yell or anything. I just stood up and was because I just thought I don't know because was it Guthrie had just kicked the goal to put them 9 points up, and we felt like that was it.
Yeah.
And I just sort of didn't think, and because it was such a similar game to the year before, which was the draw.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably weren't. I don't know what the stats would say, but especially against good teams, we haven't been used to getting over the line in those ones.
Yeah, not against the credentialed side like that.
Yeah,
who
yeah.
are still kind of playing for something.
Yeah. So it felt more like, I don't know. We were down by 3 points, but I still didn't feel like it was more of a celebration of the goal than we're back within 3 points.
Yeah. We're all getting caught up in the moment. Like with the North Melbourne game, just being involved with some meaningful games again.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a rarity. it just hasn't happened. It hasn't even been a rarity. It just hasn't happened in the last 2-3 years. But that was definitely my favourite game of the year.
Yep.
And that was probably both of our favourite goals, I dare say.
Yep.
Gresham, anything else stand out for you through the year in terms of like moments or games or even losses or just things or lowlights?
Not because of the umpiring, and I say that because it gets brought up so often when people mention it, but the Hawthorn game in round 4 and then the North Melbourne game a few weeks later.
Yeah.
The start of the season, we had those sort of moments where it felt like we can really mix it with the decent teams, and then we had a few games later on that confirmed that, even despite the second North Melbourne game. But I remember it felt like, despite some good wins, when we lost to Adelaide, I thought... I wrote the match review and I sort of closed with this really shitty melodramatic thing, as I'm wont to do. And then the next 2 weeks were probably amongst the two most enjoyable, certainly afterwards.
After the Hawthorn?
After the Adelaide game. So even though we'd had those, good performances, win or loss, in the first half of the season, after that Adelaide game, it felt like, we're probably going to be playing, the B, C and D teams on rotation throughout the rest of the year, because we'll put the Q in the rack and Hugh Goddard's out.
Give everyone a run.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like. And then we played Carlton in front of, I think, technically what was sold out. A sold-out Etihad Stadium. And that was and the roof was open, and it was a really nice day, and the crowd was, big crowd, and Carlton had won 6 out of 7 or 6 in a row, whatever it was. And we played really well and had a really good win, and then the following game was the Geelong win.
Yeah.
So...
swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. And then obviously the last game of the season against Brisbane was really enjoyable. It had a similar feeling to... I don't know.
Another game.
Yeah. But it was just... It felt like a bit more of a purposeful... It was similar to 2013 against Freo in the last game when... Cozzy and Blake were retiring. And Milne. Yeah, and right. Schneider was playing his 200th.
Yeah, Schneider went for one more year.
Yeah. Well, no, he decided to go for another one after that, and then...
As a rookie.
Yeah. I was just going to bring up something about that Essendon game where he hit the post.
Well, you've succeeded.
And it kind of felt like that. It was like a really good day out. It was an easy win. Some really good... It was like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But it felt a bit more purposeful this time. Because that other game was... There was a bit of... It was pretty sad because you're sort of... These guys are leaving. The day was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, we barely won a game that year as it was. But you sort of had that... It was still pretty fresh, all the Ross Lyon era, the grand finals and the fallout and everything that went with it. So it was more of a reflective...
There was a no premiership hangover.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a far more reflective day, whereas this, you still kind of had this... I guess there was a reflective aspect in the sense that Riewoldt kicked 9 goals, and you could sort of... You probably first reaction is like... vintage performance or whatever. But then you probably realise he arguably had his best season. Probably not his most effective, but that, I think that would have more to do with the rest of the team, if that makes sense. But individually, it was arguably his most impressive, given where he's at in his career and what he's done in his career and how he changed his game and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he kicked 9 goals, and so you sort of had that aspect, but all of a sudden, there was the team aspect of... a bunch of young guys on the way up, but then also thinking that, Riewoldt still probably might, or it reinforced that he might have a role to play in the next year or two, and hopefully a team that plays a few finals.
Hey, I could almost redo the intro here, because this speaks to our shoddy preparation, everyone, but...
That's alright.
My name's Richard Lee, by the way, and I'm with Tom Brillier.
I didn't even think
in
about
case
that.
you didn't realise by now. But I'm quoting Mav Weller today. Well, it was published today, that is, at 11:19. And Mav said, we're not focusing on the outcome. We're worried about ourselves, worried about the little steps, but there is an aura of excitement around the club. And yeah, just getting back to us finishing 9th, people have been saying pretty much the last 2 years, it feels a lot like 2003.
Sorry, I'm still wearing the headphones that I don't need to be.
People have been saying, well, Saints fans for the last couple of years have been trying to make the comparisons to 2003 and think we're right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much did this year feel like that? Coming home with a wet sail.
Yeah.
Do you actually feel like we're kind of ready to kind of catapult into the top 8, or you feel like...
I don't know if it'll be like a
still
2004 style, almost premiership or borderline premiership, given how that panned out season.
Yeah, well, just in general, like, how did you rate the year? It was better than you expected?
Yeah.
About the same?
Yeah, no, I was thinking we were going to sort of tread water, maybe.
Yeah. Because I think...
Maybe a Bulldogs 2014, I think.
I think most of the more optimistic Saints fans were just hoping for a year where we plateaued results-wise. And we obviously overachieved on that front.
Double the wins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I was going to bring up before, we touched on Jade Gresham super briefly. He was a real standout in terms of individuals having a great year. Yeah. But there are some other obvious ones, which were Seb Ross had a really breakout season. Finally, after 5 years, people saying he's ready. Yeah. And not just Seb Ross, but Tim Membry had a big year. Yeah. He's really cemented himself in the forward line, despite a few others being, more
both of those
well regarded. What did he end up with? He ended 44. Up with 44, so it's a really solid season for him.
Yeah, and he only played his first game in round 6, I think it was. Yeah. 5 or 6.
But I think he's a real favourite of Richo and the coaches now. And not just Membry, the other one that's coming to mind straight away for me is Hickey. Yep. Yeah, any others that you want to
highlight? Probably towards the end of the year. I think that was more just natural development. I think the thing with Ross and Membry, Hickey and Akers are probably in the same lot, just because for them it's more about just getting experience, and we're probably expecting them to just get better as they go. But Ross and Membry, Ross had played a few years, and I said a lot of times on the blog, and on a podcast at least one, I don't know what a good game by Seb Ross looks like beyond him just getting more of the ball. Yeah, yeah. And I think we sort of figured it out this year.
Yeah, it was a kind of coming of age. Like he just looked a bit more expressive. Yeah, the artiste came out in his play. Yeah, like he just seemed like he had a lot more time every time he had the ball. Like Armitage the year before, he was getting into space a lot more easily. Yep. He wasn't always... It felt like prior to that, Seb Ross getting the ball, he was always about to get tackled. But
yeah, it was always a quick handball.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. That's all I knew that he did. He got a vaguely contested ball and managed to find a teammate close by. But I think this season he just was able to, like you said, he just seemed to slow everything around him down a bit. Yeah, and he could just, again, like you said, be a bit more expressive and maybe throw in a kick or two there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I was listening to our podcast from last year.
Of course.
We'll put up a link for listeners that haven't listened to it.
Oh, yeah.
But what I was going to say was Tom Hickey, there was a lot of we were still really uncertain about him not even 12 months ago, start of this season, about what he was going to produce. We were both always supporters of him, but we just weren't quite sure he was.
I was more totally a supporter of his
going to deliver,
of his video persona on the Saints website. Bring back Quick 60.
There needs to be more of it. I'm enjoying the dog videos.
The dog videos are great, but Jack Stevens sucks in front of a camera. I don't care what it's for. We'll get back to that. But yeah, Hickey... Yeah, no, that's true. And especially because Longer had such a good year last year. and more and more. I mean, this has been said by just about any commentator anywhere, but more and more if you're going to have two ruckmen, then at least one of them has to be a really, really competent forward.
Mm.
And we don't. And Hickey's getting there, or
he showed
or
flashes.
at least really competent around the ground, and he improved on that a lot. In fact, it was probably through traffic that he was most impressive around the ground, rather than what we're used to ruckman doing around the ground, which is either dropping back to take a intercept mark or going forward and just chipping in 1 or 2 goals.
Yeah.
But but Billy Longer didn't end up playing a game. They virtually traded places, and I'd say
he had a few concussion.
Oh yeah, he had a few injuries, but it didn't feel like he was anywhere near it. And I'm going from the noise around the club. Last year felt like Hickey was being kept out, sort of only just. You wouldn't have batted an eyelid if Longer came out. But this year I feel like Hickey's a lot further in front than where Longer was at the end of last year.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
The thing with Tim Membry and Seb Ross, they were kind of unexpected for different reasons. Because Tim Membry, no one expected anything of him, really. Or certainly
this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly not what he produced. But, and he wasn't even in the team for the first more than a month as well, so you just kind of assumed he was still getting his VFL.
Because his 2015 wasn't anything to be sneezed at for...
Oh, it wasn't like he was bad or anything. It was just more that he just...
circumstance.
I didn't think this year he'd show himself to be not just as versatile as he proved to be, because he kicked goals on the run, he kicked goals around the corner, coming off a pack, he obviously...
I like his around the corner goals.
Yeah.
That's my favourite type of Membry.
Yeah. I like when he's on the run.
Curling Membry.
And then he'll still stop to do the double fist.
Regardless
and
of the
show
margin.
Off the pipes. Yeah. Yeah. But obviously his ability to take a mark, no matter how he's positioned against his opponent, proved to be really good as well.
In some ways, he's the complete opposite to Josh Bruce. I just thought that.
Go on.
Well, just in terms of compared to Bruce, you just know what you're going to get a lot more of the time with Membry. He's a very reliable set shot for goal, except for a couple of...
Membry?
except for a couple of...
Except for that Geelong.
The Geelong game. But, he's human.
Yeah, he still struggled a little bit against the better teams, but I don't know, I guess by definition...
Oh, against the Roos, he kicked 2 or 3, didn't he? At least the first Roos game.
Yeah.
Not the Boomer game.
But I remember, I think towards the end of the season, it felt like he'd probably... I don't know, I think he was probably as honest as we were. We probably beat everyone below us, almost, and we only beat a couple of teams above us. And that probably was reflected in how he played as well. I don't know if he was quite a barometer for the team, but also I didn't expect him to be so consistent.
Yeah, he is.
Not just showing off, all those things that he was able to do, he managed to do them, if he was on, then he'd be doing all those things.
Frequent rate, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't he wasn't ever a very one-dimensional player. It was just he'd be a bit quieter across the board.
He's a marksman, kind of. That's the way I think of him. He can be like a soccer striker. He can kind of just be out of the game, and then all of a sudden he can have a 10-minute patch.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of ignites something. Not in a flashy way, but he can just take
he just
a couple
puts
of
himself in the
marks.
right position. Yeah.
But we've talked a lot of positivity.
Go on.
There were a few cases of second-year blues. And there were some
third-year blues.
And some real moments of doubt in my mind. Well, we mentioned how Blake had a real wet sail at the end of the year. But 2/3 of the way through, I had massive question marks about him. He was
that was interesting because
really nervous on the ground.
Yeah, because he had that really good Melbourne game, and I think everyone was kind of thinking, "Oh, he's gonna be like this now," and then he just kind of faded away again. But then something clicked, and then his last probably 6 weeks or maybe 2 months were really, really good.
Well, I think it was mentioned kind of subtly through the year that he kind of got sprinkled with the Magic Revolt dust in the second half, because Revolt was kind of his mentor
Yeah.
later in the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was...
I could just imagine Riewoldt kind of getting like kind of annoyed with him and just being like, "Oh, I better
Come
do something
on."
about this.
But yeah, he obviously just, I don't know, something clicked in the second half of the year, and with young players, it might not even be a certain thing, it just might be the right time where they just kick off somehow.
But I think we should just remember he's still only in his third season.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Aside from him, I thought the most obvious example was Sinclair. He had a massive drop off.
Yeah, that's why I thought that was a bit, not bemused, but maybe bemused is the right word, that he got number 35. I thought that was a bit weird.
Yeah, he did get allocated Sir Robert.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably maybe with a view to, being a motivational piece maybe.
Yeah.
Or, pick yourself up off the canvas.
When you're not... Because,
you know what I'm saying?
Clubs, the way clubs operate now, they'll make a PR whatever out of anything that happens. So, whoever allocates the numbers, I don't know who, but they would know full well that when they give whoever it is number 35, there's going to be a small fuss made out of it. And some, whether it's an actual reporter or one of the social media people pretending to be
Digital
a reporter.
rookies.
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah. Pretending to ask them a question at not actually a press conference. That's got to be made apparent to that player.
Yeah. But
And-
for me, he was the most obvious one.
Really?
Well, in terms of just compare...
Oh, I thought you were 35. I was like...
No. No, I mean, like, performance contrast to 2015.
Yeah.
Because I was really high on him after 2015.
Yeah, Gresham was like a massive upgrade on him.
But his 2015 Sinclair was pretty close to what Gresham was this year, I thought.
Yeah, the funny thing was, I thought Sinclair this year, even though he was obviously nowhere near as consistent, or his highs weren't as high, I thought he actually showed himself to be a more versatile player. And that game against Collingwood in round 3, that was probably the best example. And I feel like everyone played well when he played at the MCG anyway, but I thought that was the best example of him running up, working hard up the ground, as opposed to sort of just being the the sort of like, early Jack Stephen career sort of guy who just appears at the bottom of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
In the front half. But he worked up the ground really well, and his field kicking was actually really good that day, particularly. And he was never able to replicate that, but even I felt like when he came back into the team, and he was obviously in and out because his performances weren't, that great, but I still feel like he was still playing that same kind of role.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting that, maybe he was just struggling to settle into that. Maybe it might have been a fitness thing, but I don't know, how much do you want to read into him winning the 3K time trial, whatever it was, the other week. I think his trajectory will be very interesting over the next year or two.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of competition in that kind of small forward, part-time midfielder area, so he's going to have to...
Well, one of those is his
up.
best mate, Jack Billings.
Do we want to... It wouldn't be a podcast without a bit of Billings talk.
Let's talk Jack Billings.
That's where the theme music needs to come in.
I'll drop something in there.
I was going to say, now through the year, you mentioned on several occasions that I noticed quite a few times during the year, Tom, whenever the mention of Billings came into the air, it never happened without the Bontempelli comparison.
Yeah, well, I don't see Jack Billings having his own day on Fox Footy.
Well, what? Just
also,
hold your horses for a sec.
While it's fresh in my mind, I'd just like to point out to our listener, hi Matt,
Harry.
Harry, Rich is wearing his, at the end of season sale, a few of us went shopping on a shopping spree, and Rich now is proudly wearing his player issue Josh Bruce signed Clash Jumper, RIP Candy Stripe 2, and I remember walking into that. It was probably 6 or 8 weeks after the season had finished. It was the day before the last game.
Last home and away game.
Yeah, it was the day before the last home and away game. What am I talking about? And I remember walking in and saying, "Do they have any Marcus Bontempelli jumpers?" I don't know if anyone heard me, but okay. Hindsight 2020, blah blah blah, and certainly I didn't want. I remember before that draft, I didn't want Bontempelli. I thought, was Toumpas next, taken at 5 by Melbourne? I remember thinking that Bontempelli looked kind of, well, not as convincing.
He was a bit of a bolt out of the blue. Like he was the upside guy, for the lack of a better term.
And he had terrible hair, like, at the time. He's got excellent hair now. Jack Billings has the same hair. And
such is life.
So easy to say that now, all of this now, blah, blah, blah. But what I found interesting, maybe even at the time, and you'll probably find no record of me actually ever saying this, so I'm probably just saying this now as well. But I still thought it interesting at the time, not ever doubting that Billings would be a good player. I still think he'll be a good player. But I just thought that the type of player that Bontempelli was, as opposed to Billings, I thought we would have gone for a Bontempelli type more. And I know.
You mean if we knew that he had those leadership qualities and
not so much. I just thought, and I know the draft you always go sort of recruiters would say you go for the best available at that point in the draft at the high end. And Billings was probably...
Well, we hadn't had the McCartan pick by that point either, so he was the highest pick we'd had since we were rubbish.
And obviously we would have gone Josh Kelly as well.
Yeah, we loved him. Yeah,
I think we still do. Word on the street is...
Yeah.
Big Footy Street.
Brian speaking.
Moorabbin Ghost. Jackson's.
Yes.
Tony 74.
Let me ask you this.
I was going to say, Bontempelli being a big-bodied midfielder, I just think wouldn't that have been such an obvious deficiency, especially where Seb Ross was at the time, who is, and I say that because Seb Ross is deceptively quite big not big for a midfielder, but he's got a bigger body than people, I think.
Because he doesn't throw it around.
He's not like a I'll keep it on top. He's not a Jack Steele type. Yeah. And I just thought Bontempelli, for a team that was looking pretty thin in the midfield then, and I'm saying this in hindsight now, I probably didn't bat an eyelid for the first 2 years.
But let me ask you.
Go on.
Just in a vacuum though, what do you think of Billings this year?
Really disappointing.
No Bontempelli,
disappointing,
no Toumpas,
but he was injured, wasn't he?
Well, he didn't... When we were talking about his pre-season form, like through the NAB Challenge games, I remember us both remarking that he wasn't hitting the ground running fitness-wise. He was playing catch-up.
Yeah, but but you know what? I still remember that Melbourne, the third game, which we lost. Not that obviously matters too much in the NAB Challenge, but I remember he kicked, I think it was 2 goals, and one of them was just a set shot from 50, and he just hit it like a bullet.
Oh, yeah, in the pre-season. Yeah, and he had the North Melbourne goal as well from 55.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So he still... I just thought it was more a matter of,
Conditioning,
and I still think it is. I certainly hope it is.
He still jogged his way through 17 matches for the year. But
I still don't think he was quite right, because I feel like he...
But is he where you wanted him to be at this stage in his career?
If Bontempelli was at the same stage, as in was being as effective, then I'd be like, I think he'll be fine. Like
if Billings really got his act together fitness wise, and he came out and won a time trial, and
everyone would be all...
No, what I'm saying is that the main concern for you at the moment? Like, if he got
Yeah, I
that
think
sorted,
so.
do you think he'd really be...
Yeah, I think he's the kind of player that, unless something really drastic happens in his development, he's the kind of player that doesn't lose that natural...
So you're not
Whatever it
worried
is.
as such?
No.
more-
It's purely a comparison thing.
Okay.
If Bontempelli was playing 15 or 16 or 17 games this year, and if Bontempelli wasn't a best and fairest winner in a premiership winning team, I wouldn't be as worried. But in a weird way, I think the fact that Bontempelli has won a best and fairest in a premiership team, it kind of like relieves that pressure of the comparison now, because it's done. They've won a premiership.
What?
Kind of doesn't matter, and it's
This-
not like you're in an arms race. You know,
Yeah,
who's going
yeah.
to win one first? It's over.
Yeah.
So you can kind of just forget about that and just worry about. I'm talking purely
Doing
for
what you
myself,
do, yeah.
who compares them all the time. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be the kind of, Luke Ball 2, Chris Judd 3, 2001 draft, or to a lesser extent, Ben McAvoy, pick 9, Patrick Dangerfield, pick 10, 2007 situation.